I wanted to follow up on what we were talking about in our class with Jeffrey yesterday when he was talking about conceptual appearances and meaning generalities, and the whole idea that when we have a thought consciousness, we're not perceiving an object directly, but we're perceiving it through the veil of a conceptual appearance, you know, so that it's quite different than seeing something directly with your senses, you know. So if you think of the place where you live, you know, your bedroom or whatever, or if you're in your bedroom and you look at it, that's direct perception and you see it. And then if you think about, if you're here and you think about it, then that's a conceptual mind, okay? What happens is when we have conceptual minds, yeah, although we know that it isn't, we're not perceiving the real object at that moment, but our mind kind of gets drawn in and we think we are, okay? And so that's why we can think about somebody who is not in front of us and go all over the board having so many emotions about them. Yeah? You may have noticed this in your meditation. Yes? Yeah? And you know, all these emotions that we have are actually conceptual consciousnesses. Yeah, we think that when we perceive somebody or we perceive a certain situation, that we're seeing it exactly as it is objectively out there, but actually we're seeing it, you know, through the process of our own conceptual story that we're telling about it. Yeah, and so this is why different people experience the same thing in very, very different ways, because their conceptual story is very different. Yeah, so we can really like somebody, our friend can really hate them. We can love one situation, our friend can hate it. You know, a lot of this happens simply because of the concepts that we come up with regarding the different situations. And what's difficult for us is we think, even when our conceptual mind is accurate, that what we're perceiving is reality, objective out there. And we're not realizing that our mind is playing a big role in creating this wonderful person that we're so attached to. And our mind is creating a big role in getting so aggravated by this uncooperative person that we don't like. Yeah? Because what's producing these emotions is the conceptual appearance. You know, we're locked into that, thinking that it's real. And whenever we form conceptual appearances, we're just pulling out certain bits of information and constructing an image from it. We're not seeing the person or the situation in its full splendor with everything that's involved. We're just picking out different things and then interpreting them in different ways, and this is all our thought consciousness. Yeah. So I know when I first started learning the difference between direct perceivers and thought consciousnesses, I remember some of the people I was studying with was going, oh yeah, yeah, so what? This is kind of boring. Why do we have to learn all these definitions and stuff? But then I was going, wow, this is so helpful for my meditation and for understanding how my mind is working. Yeah, because it was like, oh my goodness, you know, it's very difficult for me to see situations freshly, because as soon as there's anything that remotely resembles something I experienced before, you know, my mind's generating a conceptual appearance of what I experienced before and projecting a lot of that on the present situation, even though the present situation doesn't have a lot of that detail. You know, I pick out a few things and then the whole image on top of it. Yeah, and then get so emotional about it. So, you know, I mean, a good example is somebody comes in the room and starts talking to you, okay? Your sense direct experience is simply the sound of the voice. That's all. Yeah? It's just the auditory consciousness hearing the sound of the voice. Your visual consciousness seeing the color and shape of their face, or, you know, their body, or whatever it is. Yeah? Then, so that's the direct perception part, what you're actually experiencing with your senses. Then, after that, the mind starts saying, oh, well, you know, the color of their skin was a little bit this color, so it looks like they were a little flushed, so it looks they're probably angry, you know, because their cheeks are redder than usual, and their eyes are looking like this, so, you know, the color, instead of just seeing the color and shape, it's like, oh, their eyes are looking at me in a scornful way. You know, we start describing it, and instead of just, you know, hearing sound, oh, that tone of voice, I know what that tone of voice means, you know, they're really laying into me, and those words, you know, not just sound, it's like, well, they really mean this, and they have that motivation, and they're trying to get me to do this, and, you know, I just can't stand it when people are trying to manipulate me in that way, and I'm going to put my foot down and, you know, shut up and leave me alone. And we're off and running, right? And all there was the sound of a voice and color and shape. And then our mind just took that, and it's all conceptuality. The whole rest is conceptuality. Okay? So we really make ourselves quite miserable in that way. Or when we build somebody up with fantastic qualities, we make ourselves very happy, you know. Oh, that guy is just like fantastic, wow, you know. And you build them up to be some kind of, you know, whatever, yeah. But, you know, this is all coming from our mind. It's not the reality of the situation. And so when you understand this, then you can understand why some people say, you know, in meditation, just empty your mind of all conceptuality, and that state free from conceptuality, that is how you should meditate, and that's nirvana. You know, this was this great debate that they had between the Chinese master and Kamala Shila, you know, in Tibet. So, but the thing is that just getting rid of all of these conceptions, that isn't nirvana. It certainly leaves your mind a lot quieter, that's for sure. But the basic fundamental conception and grasping we have is of, you know, a solid concrete self, and that other things, you know, internal people, external environment, that all those things are solid and concrete. And that kind of conceptuality we never ever change. So as long as that is there, then all the attachment, aversion, and arrogance and jealousy and all the rest are going to come along, no matter how much you try and, you know, get rid of them and just keep your mind quiet by watching the breath or you know, developing some kind of concentration. Yeah. So it's I think understanding this whole thing about conceptuality is very helpful to understanding our emotions and our perceptions and how we interact with people, and even how we feel about ourselves. You know, sometimes we feel so depressed and so discouraged, and I can't talk to anybody, and I'm so lonely, and this situation is rotten, and I can't communicate with these people, and they're driving me crazy. And you know that? And yeah, you know, and just to recognize, oh, that's conceptuality made up by my mind. That's not the reality of the situation. Yeah. And if I'm going to have the conceptuality at this point, I should at least have realistic conceptuality, you know. So, and which is why, like in the Tibetan tradition, part of our training is to learn how to think clearly. It's not just to abandon thinking and abandon conceptuality. It's to learn how to think clearly so that the conceptuality that is useless we can let go of, but we can, you know, develop some accurate conceptuality. So that person who's driving you crazy, instead of all the conceptuality, they did this and they did that, and who did they treating me like this, and who do they think they are, and I'm so tired of people treating me like this, and I want out of here anyway. Instead of that, like, you look at this person, yeah, same color, same shape, same, you know, voice, and you think, that's a sentient being who wants to be happy, who doesn't want to suffer, and who is overwhelmed by afflictions because they're in cyclic existence. Yeah. So if you're going to have conceptuality, have a realistic conceptuality. That's all this person is. They're not a good person. They're not an evil person. They're somebody who's just like me, wanting to be happy, not wanting to suffer, overwhelmed by afflictions. And if you can train your mind in that way to see everybody like that, then you have some kind of, you can have some empathy and compassion for others and be free of, you know, this incredible opinion factory that is working overtime in our head. Yeah? It'd be nice to be free of that opinion factory, wouldn't it? Yeah? Even the opinion factory of ourselves, you know, how we judge ourselves. I'm so this, I'm so that. Yeah. Just no, I'm just a sentient being who wants to be happy, doesn't want to suffer, overwhelmed by afflictions, and I've met the Dharma, so how fortunate I am. So in that way, you know, having correct conceptuality, beneficial conceptuality, that will, you know, lead us in a good direction. Okay?